Welcome to the Just Men podcast, a podcast where we talk about everything masculinity and manhood in a very honest, raw way. I'm your host, Jeremy, and
I'm Byron.
we're two dudes talking about manhood. How do you feel, Byron,
Yes, we are.
doing a podcast with yours truly? We're just
I've
two
got to
dudes.
say, it's quite an honour. I very much enjoy our conversations when we're not recording. So the fact that we actually get to make our conversations official for everybody is very exciting, Jeremy.
That's
very exciting.
It's almost romantic. That's
I know, right?
poetry in motion. So
I'm practicing my masculinity.
right here. This is exactly
Right
what it
now.
is. Well, it's funny because when we met, actually, I vividly remember it was at a party, and the first thing I saw was literally this jacked, muscly dude with party hats over his nipples. That was that was the first time I remember seeing you, and I think, oh well, that's definitely a guy. And
Do you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Is the first recollection I ever have of you was when you were dressed up as Ken from the movie, like Barbie movie.
right.
And you were walking through a convention. I remember thinking, man, that guy's got some confidence. Holy, look at him go. Because you were strutting your stuff.
Look, I have
was
to. If
impressed.
you're gonna wear something like that, I think you got to be not afraid to show a little bit of nipple on the convention floor when you're going out to cosplay. So,
I mean,
But,
I'm all for freeing the nipple. So.
to be fair, I don't often wear something where I free the nipple. So that was definitely a step in that direction for building my confidence in any
Well,
which
there
way.
you go.
Anyway, this is the Just Men podcast. Like I mentioned, we have honest conversations between two dudes just about everything to do with masculinity and manhood. And what's the very first topic that we're going to be talking about is quite literally what is healthy masculinity. So
Tough one to define.
yeah, we're going to kind of go through and define it. But before we get into that, let's kind of just define why we actually made this podcast in the first place. So, Byron, care to indulge us? Why did we actually decide to have these conversations instead of just shit-talking whenever we play Baldur's Gate?
Hold on. Shit talking in Baldur's Gate is very masculine, first of all.
Of course. We talk
It
about...
started there.
and it's kind of evolved.
But honestly, I think it's because in this... it's really hard, right? In the modern age in particular, you have information overload. If you step foot into the realms of Instagram, Reddit, X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, TikTok, conversations with friends, family, whatever, the ideals about what masculinity is now feels very overwhelming and confusing at times. I personally, still to this day, am trying to figure out what it means for me to be a man, and you don't get a lot of opportunity to actually have conversations with other blokes, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think being here with you might just encourage others to do the same, which is why I'm here.
That's about as well as I could put it, really.
Beautiful.
I think it's good too because it's like you mentioned. Because I work as a social skills coach with introverts, as you know, and a lot of the guys I talk to, that's just seems to be what a lot of them are missing. It's maybe it's a father figure they're missing. Maybe they just don't have any guys in their life who they can have, those open, honest conversations with. About, is this cool? Is this a bad thing to do? Am I being masculine here? Am I being cringe? Am I, doing the right thing? I don't feel good about this. And, it's hard to have those chats with some guys without copping some flack, without them going, oh, you're a bit of a pussy, or, oh man, I can't believe you do something like that. And the last thing that you want to do is feel shit about yourself just for either, trying to do the right thing or you're not sure what the right thing is to do. And all the while, you're trying to improve as a human being. So I think it's exactly as you said. It can be very confusing not knowing, who's right, who's wrong, who's toxic, who's wholesome, who's the right person to listen to. Is this advice I'm listening to from TikTok a bunch of crap, or should I actually be following it? So, where do you start?
That's right. And if you've only ever got yourself to be able to bounce these ideas off, I don't know about you, but when you start thinking on ideas and you're taking in all this information, who other than yourself is able to tell you anything is a really scary place to be, right? Because when you're alone, you have no point of reference. Like I get stuck. I start thinking on things that I probably shouldn't be thinking, and then it just evolves into me not understanding where I fit in the world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, healthy discourse, conversation, dialogue with another man is truly appreciated, but it doesn't have to be with men. It can be with everybody.
Yeah, it can be with everybody. But
why we're here.
I think just having those conversations with guys in particular, because If you're anything like either people I've worked with or people that I've met, guys don't usually like to open up about talking about these things. Just
heck no.
in general, because, it's the perception that, talking about feelings makes you weak, talking about them makes you feel less of a man, talking about my feelings makes me less attractive to women, talking about these things as, made my co-workers look differently at me, it's made my friend group do XYZ, and it's like, well, what do I do? Who do I talk to? That's what we're here to do, is we're going to have those conversations either with you, or we're going to have those conversations with each other as two...
Or some extra guests, who knows? If you want to be on the potty, come along and drop us a message.
Drop us a message if you've got something fun to say. So that's what this podcast's all about. It's just going to be honest conversation between two guys, our experiences, where we've come from, where we're going to go, Cotton Eye Joe and all that kind of thing. But, so we're going to be here talking about, healthy masculinity, the role of, going to the gym, how important is that? How important is it to be vulnerable, relationships, friendships, everything you can think of that you thought, does this make me more masculine? Does this make me less masculine? We're going to talk about it for you, so don't you worry.
But Jeremy, I've got a really good question for you.
Well, that's a good question, Byron.
What qualifies us to be having these conversations, Mike? Who are we to actually talk about these things?
That is a good question. It's like, all right, who are we? Where we come from? Why are you even listening to us in the first place? Look, Byron, tell us a bit about yourself, actually. For the most part, you're just this really attractive definition of... Someone looks at you, they think, wow, that's Chad in the flesh. Like, who are you?
Boy, how wrong they are. No, so my full name is Byron Rose Kelly. You can find me on Instagram under that exact handle, so at Byron Rose Kelly. And if you have a quick sneak at my profile there, you'll see I'm a guy who likes to go to the gym. I dress up in suits fairly regularly, and I also like to take my suit attire off, which has become very appealing for a lot of other people. But,
delicious.
It's... What do they call them? Thirst traps.
Thirst traps.
I remember the first time I ever made a reel, someone was like, "Oh, you've discovered the thirst trap, hey?" And I was like, "Okay." I thought I was just posing, but sure. So I come from a bodybuilding background. I've also been in sales for a lot of my life. So whether it's been financial services or in real estate. And now I'm at a point where I've kind of retired from normal work and instead focus solely on social media and how to grow said social media accounts. And the one thing that I have never stopped doing, which kind of shows in my physique really, is gym. So I'm all about hitting that gym, hitting those weights, lifting heavy things. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. And the masculinity side, I think what you said there is really interesting. Like if people do have a quick glance at what I'm about, I do sometimes get the feeling that I get judged pretty quickly on the fact that I've got muscles.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
as a result, they don't know the real me.
They don't, and I think that's pretty common, really. We kind of take a look at someone, and based on their physique or their attractiveness or their looks, it's very easy to judge someone.
100%.
Whether or not that's going to be a masculine thing. We're going to get into that discourse a bit later. But, so, yeah, if you look at Byron, just at a glance, you probably would make the assumption, as any dude would, it's like, wow, that guy's jacked, that guy's ripped, he must be like, so attractive, pulling all the ladies, really successful man, God, I wish I was like him. And don't get me wrong, I think those
have
thoughts
some good
too
stuff
sometimes.
going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Me, on the other hand, I'm probably the antithesis of Byron. I'm a guy who works as a social skills coach with introverts, as I mentioned before. And I have my whole life pretty much been a huge nerd. So I've always been into video games, always been into anime and manga, and I've been pretty active in the Australian cosplay scene. So if anyone doesn't know what cosplay is, that's where you quite literally dress up as a video game or a cartoon character, and you do your best to look like that character and have fun with it. And there's a whole backstory to this, but long story short, I was doing that for a very long time. I did it very competitively. There's a whole competitive side to it. And so I'm not the fittest dude. I'm more on the skinny side. I don't know if we've got any pictures of us up yet, but so we live in Australia. I'm an Asian guy. And you probably can't tell with the way that I'm talking. You're like, wow, you don't sound like that at all, Jeremy. And I get that a lot too. But funnily enough, me and Byron, we met through doing cosplay stuff because Byron's partner is also a cosplayer, and that's kind of how they met. And we met through those circles and kind of went from there. So, but no, I'm not huge into gym. I do think keeping fit is very important. And it's just like everyone.
You're a fit lad.
Oh, do my best, but just like everyone, we can always be fitter. We can always aspire to have muscles the size of Byron's, but you know we're working our way.
That thought never goes away, Jeremy. It never goes away.
Oh, I fall asleep at night. That hits my dreams, thinking, wow, that could be me one day. You know, maybe then I'll pull all the girls that I wanted to. I'll feel like a man. I'll get all the women. I'll finally feel like everyone would like me for once. But
fulfilled.
Yeah, and ironically, so I'm the one who teaches social skills and confidence and all of these things, and that's something I had to kind of discover through a journey, much like probably what you've done too, Byron, and you've had to go through your own journey of discovering
100%.
How to love yourself, what confidence actually means to you, how to perceive yourself as a man, how to deal with the facts that other guys are going to have a go at you for any reason, really. And, still retain that confidence and love for yourself without feeling emasculated, really. So,
100%.
Anyway, those are our backgrounds, and that's kind of where we're coming into it. So, neither of us are, professionally...
we're not psychologists or anything like that, counselor or whatever. We're just normal blokes.
Just normal blokes,
if you want to call us that.
Who've, we've done a bit of work on ourselves. I know you definitely have. I've definitely put my best effort in. But, so we're here to kind of share our viewpoints, what we've learnt, and hopefully some of those stories, some of these viewpoints can be very useful for you guys listening in. And hopefully you'll get some value from the things that we're going to drop in this podcast. So, but anyway, before we get stuck into our very first topic about, what healthy masculinity is, we thought we'd just do a quick mention to our Patreon, which is something that we recently just set up as a little endeavor. If you guys... It's fresh off the press. If you guys enjoy our vibe, if you enjoy what you're listening to, and you feel like you just want to support what we do in any little way, feel free to head over to our Patreon. Our link will be in the description of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it from, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever it's from.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Otherwise, you can just search it up quite literally as the Just Men podcast on Patreon, and you'll find all the details there. Anyway, that's a bit about ourselves. That's a little bit of our self-plug and self-promotion. We'll kind of go more of it later, but let's dig straight into our very first topic, which is something that is confusing for everybody.
Oh, what a banger. Yeah, this is a banger podcast.
Straight up. I'm excited to suck into this one. But particularly as, I'd say, a young dude growing up in school, when we first get past the phase of, unfortunately, I would say, get past the phase of, yay, you're a friend. Yay, you're a friend. Yay, let's play together. And you start getting into, is this cool? Does Sally like me? And you
start sorting. Yeah.
You start kind of sorting yourself into groups, and you try to, impress other people, and you start to question your idea of, what's cool, what's manly, what's the best thing to do.
That whole developmental phase, like when you start to go through puberty, I guess, and you go, what is this male masculine thing all about? It's... Unless you, actually, I guess this is starting on the topic. Where your role models start from and who you're looking to in terms of how to develop as a human, and then that ultimately will help you express yourself. Or you might decide that that's not the way you want to express yourself and go a different route. But I tell you what, those first few years are a bit confusing, I would say, Jeremy.
100%. And arguably, or pretty not arguably, your first role model in your life, typically for what it means to be a man, is typically your dad or your father, right? And it can depend on your situation. Some of us are very lucky and fortunate to be raised by a father who is present. They're very kind. They're a great mentor. But there's also guys who have been raised with no father figure in their life, or maybe
unpleasant father figures.
Or an unpleasant father figure. Maybe, you come from a household which, your father was unfortunately less than supportive They don't necessarily have to be abusive, but they don't necessarily support you in what you do. They might put you down. They might, treat your mother in a way which you probably don't agree with, but in little ways, this kind of shapes the way that you see. Oh, so that's how to be a man. That's what's manly. Because the person that you look up to and respect most in your life as a young kid is going to be your first role model. But no, Byron, what was it been like for you? We don't have to go into deep dark history if you don't want to, but what was your kind of experience like? What healthy masculinity is like. What was your experience like growing up?
I think mine was a little atypical. So probably I didn't know who officially my dad was until I was 14.
Oh, wow.
I had an inkling, and my mum gave me some ideas of, and don't get me wrong, I love my dad. I'm glad he's my dad. But up until a certain point, let's just say my mother enjoyed the company of men.
Right.
Like a few different men. Some of the earlier role models, or role model, one in particular, was very, very unpleasant.
Right.
So I learnt how not to behave as a man and took that lesson as opposed to following in those footsteps.
Right.
And then, fortunately, my dad... I had two father figures, right? So one who ended up being my stepdad.
Mm-hmm.
He was good. He wasn't always there, and unfortunately... Again, oh my gosh, so much drama in my family life. But... He did good, and I have a good relationship with my stepfatherly figure now, who I still call dad. And then I have my only real biological dad, who is also fantastic. And sorry, Dad, but you're a bit of a goofball, and I learned a lot of my silliness from you. And then, unfortunately, as I said, there was another fatherly figure who just was not a particularly nice person. And I'm sure we'll get into it over the course of the next... however many episodes we'll do.
But
yeah, I learnt a lot from him too, let's just say.
Interesting.
So, I had a few. I was lucky. I had a few.
A few different role models of varying degrees of likeness and dislikeness, I suppose. So
100%.
My parents are still together. They've always been, together, I suppose, which is, a great thing to see in a, what you'd call a nuclear family relationship kind of thing. But, coming from an Asian background, my parents had a very, strong focus on academic study more than anything else. And they didn't necessarily neglect or say it was a bad thing, but there wasn't as much focus on other parts of your life that I would consider now to be quite important. So one of them was socializing. One of them was how to socialize, I suppose. I went to an all-boys school, if that means anything, which made my university days quite awkward, trying to, wanting to chase girls and get into relationships and that kind of thing. I had no clue what to do. And I think for a long time, again, it's just like, oh, well, this is what my dad does, goes to work, comes home, does his hobbies, etc., etc. And for a lot of the time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But, with parents trying to raise you as best as they can, that's what they know, that's all they know. And getting to the stage I am now, I didn't learn until my mid-late 20s that I had to actually unlearn a lot of bad habits that I'd picked up unconsciously from my dad. It was stuff like I had a pretty bad temper. I didn't know how to really stand up for myself without kind of being taken advantage of in a lot of cases. There was never really any focus on, knowing how to be reflective or knowing how to being self-aware about a lot of things and, know how to apologize for things, know how to admit that you're wrong, know how to... I just know how to have all of those really empathetic qualities that show, you know how to admit when you're wrong and learn from those errors rather than just say, oh, no, I'm right all the time. I'm never wrong. I'm a stubborn like this kind of thing. And those are things I had to, unlearn over time. And, bless my parents, love them both, did the best they could. But, it's one of those things in which when I did start to see other male role models in my life, whether they be, teachers or whether they be people on the internet, for goodness sake, that's when I kind of started to realize, wow, there's different ways of looking at this. There's different ways of improving yourself. So,
which kind of brings us full circle, right?
Yeah.
Like in terms of trying to figure out what healthy masculinity looks like. You know, because like you talked about, you had an experience, I had an experience, and then there are all these sources of information towards what masculinity might look like for us as individuals now.
Absolutely.
But it's like, all right, you didn't learn until your 20s what you thought healthy looked like, right?
Absolutely.
And I was listening to you talking through that going, oh, yeah, look, I've had my my fair share of learnings, and I probably to this day am still learning what that looks like.
Yeah.
But like, how does one define it?
That's a very good question. Healthy masculinity is something I think you can't really define in a very short, easy way. But if I were to give it my best shot, as in what does healthy...
Please.
Healthy, like, because we hear toxic masculinity all the time, right? So
Yeah.
I think the real question is, what does healthy actually look like? And to my best understanding, from the experiences that I've had, and from all the lessons that I've learned up to this point so far, please feel free to add on to this or correct me if you feel like it's not entirely correct. But
Yes,
my best
I will.
definition, I think, of healthy masculinity is being able to be comfortable in yourself as a man, no matter what anyone else's opinions of you might be, and being able to communicate that to other people in a way that doesn't attack anybody, put anyone down, or make someone feel bad about themselves, but instead uplift them and support those around you.
I actually think you nailed a lot of what it is to be healthily masculine. And I say this not only from my own experience, but I did some prep work, Jeremy. And
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Yeah, I Googled what healthy masculinity looks like.
What did Google tell us? What does Google say healthy masculine is, if that's the case?
All right, well, I'll give you, because healthy or positive masculinity is the idea that men can be emotionally expressive, have female friends or mentors, and express their emotions without feeling emasculated. The AI overview even takes a little bit one step further and talks about traits of healthy masculinity being emotional expression, vulnerability, self-care, compassion, healthy relationships, accountability, and goal setting. But I think it is really interesting that a lot of the healthy side of stuff actually has more to do with being able to express yourself and being able to really, like, we're told that, oh, sorry, I shouldn't say we're told, but from an early age, I shut off my emotions pretty much. Like, I suppressed everything. I didn't talk about my problems. And, you know, I imagine that's a pretty common experience for a lot of guys. And for a long time, I thought what it was to be a healthy, masculine man was to keep your problems under wraps, appear strong at all times, and make sure that regardless of what comes, you're not seen to be weak.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that I like your description of what being healthily masculine is.
I mean, I think Google and the AI generative text, I think it does bring up a few good points. Like, it brings up, I think, some qualities of healthy masculinity more than I did, which I think is a big pro there. Like, you know, again, being able to express your feelings, knowing how to have healthy relationships with people. I think those are all very important things and good signs of what healthy masculinity is. But I think what people get confused with in this case is what defines masculinity more than anything else. Right?
Yep.
Because, you know, I think every single guy in the world at some point in their life has felt emasculated in some way, shape, or form. You know, whether we've been made to feel not good enough, whether we've been bullied over something stupid, whether we've been, you know, put down in some way, shape, or form, where we're told, oh, you know, you're not strong enough, or, you know, man up, or you know, just get over it, kind of thing, because that's what a boy does, or don't cry. And these are all typically things that I think we're brought up to believe that, yeah, that's what a manly man does. They don't do those things. They do these things, and like you said, like you were brought up to believe, you hide your feelings. You don't show emotion, kind of thing. And hopefully, if this is resonating with you, and if you're listening in, you've hopefully kind of started to realize that this is getting me nowhere, hiding my emotions, and it's making me feel like shit.
It just ends up hurting, right?
It does.
Yeah, it hurts. Right? And when because you isolate yourself in that sense, and then, I mean, without, again, going into too much detail here, when it finally does break through, you just crumble. and you end up a heap on the floor. And I don't necessarily mean crying or anything like that, but your world falls apart and you don't know what to do or where to turn to.
Yeah.
And because you've never learned any of those coping mechanisms, it's like, oh, well, I guess I am just a big pussy now.
Yeah.
What? How is that healthy in any way, shape, or form? I don't know. But that's what we're taught. Or sometimes that's what we're taught.
I mean, I think the biggest thing that guys are told very commonly is, don't cry. Don't show weakness, kind of thing. And the reason behind that is because people are going to think that you're weak, or that
you can be exploited.
You get exploited. And I think over my years of learning, and also what I teach to clients of my own, the biggest issue that I think a lot of them have is they are unable to express feelings or emotions or vulnerabilities. And as a result, when it comes to socializing and social skills, they have no idea how to be fun. They have no idea how to make a connection with people. They have no idea how to court a woman because they're so afraid of showing any kind of expression or emotion or any sign of themselves that's not manly or serious. And obviously that's a really big hindrance for them when you are trying to connect and make friends or go on dates and stuff. It doesn't serve you in any way, shape, or form whatsoever.
Correct. And so I guess to tie it all up a little, we all know very well what it feels like to be emasculated or unmanly, in quotes. So if we know what that feeling is, why is it so hard to know? Because I was thinking about this before we even started this podcast, how do I know when I feel like a man?
That is the kicker, isn't it? How do we know when, we are masculine, right? How do we know?
And it stumped the shit out of me.
What conclusions did you come to before I kind of give my 2 cents on it?
Well, I feel as though when I think about times, because it's one of these tricky things, and in this modern age, where gender, for instance, is so high on the viral card of buzzwords that people have to talk about. This gender, and everybody feels this way, therefore they are, etc. But prior to all that, I'd never actually really sat down and thought, what makes me feel like I've got no other experience to compare my manliness to. I don't believe I've ever felt like a woman.
Yep.
I don't believe I've ever felt like a cat or a dog or anything else out there like that. So my only experience, I presume, to be one of being a man. But I do know I feel my absolute best when I'm confident, when I'm kicking goals and I've got some autonomy in my life towards achieving things. It's when I'm having a good time with my partner and the people around me, and it just, things feel smooth.
Yeah.
But I'm not angry, and I'm not needing to, I guess, peacock around other people. I can stand in a room with a number of other men, and they all might be doing better than I am or doing worse than I am, and yet I can stand there and be like, I am happy with who I am. I'm happy with my position, and I'm working towards whatever. And that experience, when I thought about it, is what makes me feel like a man. That's my masculine.
That's a really good definition. I like that. But I just want to just kind of add on to that. I think everything that you mentioned are wonderful things to strive for, and even just being happy and being comfortable with where you are very big traits. And I think, just to add on to that, to me, being masculine or having that masculinity, in essence, to me, is being confident and comfortable within yourself more than anything else. And
100%.
so, that can lead to things, because I think a lot of, social media particularly touts it as being, to be a high value man or whatever it is, you need to earn, 7 figures. You need to minimum 7 figures. You need to hit the gym every day. You need to have, biceps minimum,
and be over 6 foot.
Be over 6 foot. Have blue eyes. You have to have like X levels of testosterone. You have to know how to
work in finance.
You have to do a martial art. You have to drive a Ferrari. Like, unless you get all of these things, you're not a man, right?
Correct.
However, what would be better to you? What would be better to you? And I think this is the question for everybody to ask yourself, really, is, would you rather be, hustling, striving, working those 18 hours a day? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, to achieve your goals, having something to strive for. I think those are all fantastic things to have. But at the end of the day, if you feel terrible because the guy next to you has 3 Ferraris and, you're driving just a Porsche, does that make you less of a man? Or, if your muscles are not as big as Byron's, does that make you less of a man than Byron? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't. And the way that you see yourself, the way that you feel comfortable and confident in yourself, and the way that you mentioned it, when I walk into a room and there's all these other successful people around me who might be earning more, who might be, I don't know, dating 20 people at once, who might be, I don't know, helping homeless people every Sunday, and they're a good Samaritan, whatever it is, does that make you feel less manly, or does that make you feel worse about yourself? And, knowing you, and as you've told us, it doesn't make you feel bad about yourself at all. If anything, you feel happy for those people, thinking, dude, you're smashing your goals, you're helping other people, you seem really happy. I'm proud of you, dude. I think that's amazing. And
adding on to that point really quickly, is the idea that when I feel like a peak masculine male, let's say, there's a healthy level of competition. Like one of my best friends, him and I, we go tit for tat on everything.
Okay.
And yet it's like, and I'll use the gym example. So if I bench 100 kilos for 12 reps, he's going to bench 100 kilos for 13 reps.
Okay.
And there's this like element of wanting to, like in a healthy way, compete. I don't know why. Like when I see someone doing better than me, I'm happy for them.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, oh, can I level up? Can I do better?
Yeah.
And that also gives me a little bit of a kick. I don't know if that's unhealthy in terms of maybe I've just got problems with being overly competitive. But
well, look, I think there's healthy competition, there's unhealthy competition. I think in the same way, healthy competition is where you're both striving to become better people, and you're both challenging each other to improve as individuals. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who wins. You're both improving at the end of the day. You're both celebrating each other's successes. I think that's healthy competition.
There you go. I like that.
And unhealthy competition, I think, is the exact opposite, where you're trying to beat the other person to prove that you're better, to make them feel
alpha
better.
male.
I'm the alpha. Ooh. You're the beta, you cuck. Like something like that. I think that's when it becomes unhealthy, is when you're wanting to win to, prove that you're better. Or you're wanting to win to, show the other people around you that, you're the dominant one, or whatever crap you want to put on it. But at the end of the day, I think, it all kind of ties back to the same thing. Is I really believe being masculine is a personal thing. And that, if you feel the need to constantly compare yourself to someone else, if it's in a healthy way, that's still masculine, that's awesome. But if it's in an unhealthy way, I don't think that's just a good trait at all. But, I think that's kind of what I feel masculinity is. It's just being comfortable and happy and secure with who you are as a person, whatever way, shape, or form that might take. And I think there are some qualities which tie into this, goal setting, really trying your earnest in everything, wanting to improve yourself in your finances, in your fitness. I think they're all great things to strive for. But I don't think having a certain level of fitness or a certain level of success in, your personal life or your professional life, I don't think that defines masculinity at all.
So in terms of your understanding of what healthy masculinity looks like now, when did you first realize or have like an epiphany, or maybe you ascended to a higher plane, you're like, oh my gosh, I now understand what healthy masculinity looks like, or perhaps I was being unhealthy? Do you have some key standout moments in your life for things like that?
That's a real good question. I actually want to ask for your opinions too on this, because like we mentioned, I think a very big key for a lot of guys straight up is how to become more masculine. Go to the gym. How to get over your problems. Go to the gym. It's very much the bigger your muscles, the bigger your masculinity. And some people, the bigger your dick size, the bigger your masculinity. Right? That's how a lot of people look at it. And
that explains why I'm so emasculated.
100%, 100%. That explains everything. Why you don't
the
feel
small
good about
pee-pee.
yourself. Oh,
damn,
dude! If we had a dick measuring contest, I'm probably going to lose that too. So
we'll commiserate together.
That's okay. That's okay. We'll hold
just
hands.
A little sidebar. Is this part of masculinity? I swear, every guy I talk to ever, regardless of what size of penis they have, will always make small dick jokes.
Oh, dude, it's crazy because I like playing video games just as much as the next guy, but whenever someone starts to feel like they're being beaten, or they feel like their skill is not enough and they're being beaten at the game. I play League of Legends, for example. the most
Yes.
common thing that will come out is, well, at least my penis is huge and yours is tiny, right? And if it's not that, the second most common is, well, at least, I have a great job and I'm driving a Ferrari and, you don't even have a license kind of thing. They're always trying to, in the same way, they're always trying to compare dick sizes or compare their salary in a way that makes them feel better about themselves.
It's all peacocking, right?
It's all peacocking. It's just cocking, right? In this case.
It's literally just cocking.
Just cocking. But yeah, that's
we have to dive into that at some point.
We will.
I think there's a really good psychological reason for why. Like, we just did it to each other. We both just said we self-burn and said we have tiny penises. Now, no one knows if we have tiny penises.
Do we? Will you even be able to see
I
it?
mean,
will you need a microscope?
I could tell you, and you can guess for you, decide for yourself. But does that really help? I don't know.
Who knows?
I'm scared. I'm scared, Jeremy. We're talking about peepees.
I'm scared to find out, man. You might need a microscope for mine. So who knows? What?
Oh no! This is not healthy. We've gone off we're going into the unhealthy realm.
Okay, that's going to be another discussion later because at one point some people will say, "Oh, I'm really good at dark humor and self-depreciation." At what point in time does that become an unhealthy thing, right? Again, there's a balance to all things, but we'll deep dive into that one a bit later.
But going to the gym.
Yeah, going to the gym. How much is too much? How much is enough? And to answer your initial question, was there an epiphany that made me realize, wow, I am enough. My masculinity is fine. I am just as manly as the next dude, right? Was there anything like that? And I think the answer is yes. And that really actually came with, because like I said, I didn't learn a lot of what I know until my late 20s. And just like the next guy, I went through a breakup. I went through a breakup where I saw someone who was probably my first serious girlfriend, and we dated for 6 or 7 years. And, I didn't realize until a lot later, after I'd put the work in, after I'd done some reflection, after I had gone out and experimented and, dared to embarrass myself a little bit, that I learnt so much from that first relationship. And, I think a lot of it does come down to my nature and my upbringing, whereas again, I'm raised by an Asian family. Naturally and biologically, I'm not the biggest guy, so I've always been a bit on the skinny side. I was at my all-boys school. I was one of 3 Asian guys in a cohort of 120 guys, where a good majority was all, Caucasians. You can see in the school picture where everyone in our final year of school, I was the 4th or 5th shortest out of everybody. And mind you, I'm 175 centimeters, which is to American audience, it's 5'9".
Automatically disqualifies you as a man because you're under 6 foot.
Because I'm under 6 foot. It's that automatically means that, I'm not manly, and automatically I've got a microscopic penis, right? So that's...
and that's it. You're stuck.
That's it. And
just
so...
Game over.
Game over. Life's over. And so, again, my parents did the best job they knew how to do, and... said, you should focus on your studies and your academics. That's how you're going to excel, because, naturally you're not well built, you're not well endowed.
Wow.
And so, I took that as gospel. I said, oh, well, my strength is in my smarts. My strength is in my wit. And obviously because I put all my skill points into that, and you know what? Did I end up being the smartest in my school? Was I the dux of the college? Absolutely not. Was I beaten by the smart Italian guy in my grade? Absolutely.
Damn Italians.
And so, you take that away from me. If I don't have my smarts, what else is there? So I think that was one of the first points. It's well, what do I have if I'm not smart? Right? And so I really had to start experimenting, and one of the first things I did was I picked up a hobby called cosplay. As you know, right? And so with cosplay, I went into it. I thought, oh, well, this is fun. This is cool. And... from a very young age too, it was well, you know what, everyone around me, all boys schools, oh yeah, who's this nerd dressing up, putting on makeup, doing all these kinds of things. It was very, emasculating in that way, because I think, oh, maybe it is, because they say it's not manly, maybe it's not. And one of the I don't know if I've told you this story before, one of the first guys that I met in cosplay was a guy who was a few years older than me, another Asian guy, and I kind of talked to him. It's oh, well, we're good friends. I said, had the conversation. What do you do? Because I kind of don't like to tell my family or my workmates that I cosplay, because it's kind of embarrassing. And he said, oh, dude, I just own it. I just don't care. I'd tell them, oh, I do cosplay. And they're like, cosplay? Like, you mean you dress up and stuff? It's like, yeah, man. Like, I love putting on makeup. I love woodworking. I love dressing up as fictional characters. It's awesome. And kind of just having, this male role model who's, another Asian guy, another guy who cosplays, and just being so comfortable and confident in himself kind of made me realize, oh, well, shit, that could be me as well. So I think that was one of the very first times I had that epiphany. And then, later down the track, after my breakup, I kind of realized, this is my partner thinking, oh, you're not manly enough. You don't stand up for XYZ. You don't do XYZ when this happens, kind of thing. I kind of started to realize as well, it's like, well, you know what? I can do those things. I am capable of doing these things. I can, start conversations with people. I can go and talk to a girl and not feel nervous about it, and not feel like I'm, not worthy of, getting into a relationship or anything like that, just because I'm an Asian guy, just because I don't have rippling muscles, just because I'm not 6 feet tall. And, once I kind of started to prove that to myself, quite literally through, just doing things that I thought I couldn't do and proving that to myself, I kind of realized, wow, I've been living a lie for so many years.
That's a killer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. And, it did take me to the ripe old age of 27 or 28 when I realized, holy shit, the only person holding me back was myself.
There must be something about that age too.
Oh, did you have an epiphany, something similar, did you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I was 28 or 29. And so I was working for a bank. Actually, I won't say which bank. I was working for a bank as a lending specialist or mortgage specialist.
Okay.
I was doing very well in my career. I had a house. I had money. I had decent life. I'd won bodybuilding shows, did all these things. And the weight of the world at that point, I'm just going to say, crushed me. And all my prior coping mechanisms, so I talked about not sharing feelings and just burying stuff, those coping mechanisms failed me. And I ended up being let's just call it just a mess. I couldn't think, couldn't work, couldn't do anything.
Yeah, wow.
But by all of my previous measures, I was a good man. I, as I said, had the muscles, the money, and the cars, and all that sort of jazz. The job, the career. And then it actually took the manager, the area manager there, to sort of relay, and it was a female, funnily enough, relay her story about how hard her life had been and things, for me to actually start talking to a professional. And then in talking to the professional, I realized that perhaps it was more to do with the inward part of me as opposed to the outward part.
Yeah.
That would help me feel like a good man again. So, but what I say, that was, so you said 27, 28?
27, 28, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was 28, 29 maybe, somewhere in that
Something
range.
about your late 20s in which you're just like, man, I need a change in my life because this fucking sucks. Actually,
the world stress tests you.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Well, actually, I read this. I actually listened to another podcast where I don't know if you've heard of Mark Manson. He's the guy who's written The Subtle Art to Not Giving a Fuck. It's
yes,
bright
yes.
book. Great book, great author, great person. So he actually published an article which I found really interesting about the 4 phases of going through life. And he said, "Oh, well, what does that mean?" And I thought it was really interesting because the first part is you're growing up and you're doing everything that everyone around you tells you that you should do, right? And that works well for the most part. It's like, oh, you study hard, get good grades, excellent, the world rewards you.
Have good job, well done.
Good job, well done, excellent. But then you get to a stage where you start thinking, you go out into the real world and you start, maybe get your first job, you do these kinds of things, and you start to realize, what else is actually out there? Because, you've done everything that people have told you to do and it seems to work, but at a certain point of time, you either get bored or you kind of realize there's got to be more than just what people tell me to do, right? And that's where your sense of self and individuality and personality starts to develop. So that's when the second stage of life kicks in, which is typically in our 20s, right? Mm-hmm. And so we start to have this discovery phase where we try a bunch of different things. And we do something new here, try a new job, date different people, travel to different places. And it gets to a stage eventually where, that novelty of trying new things does start to wear off. And you kind of want more purpose in your life. You need to have something actually mean something rather than just these tangible things. And the authors, and then the third part is, you're building something, and just in short, you start building something, and then the fourth part is you want to leave a legacy behind when you get like really old, right? But he said he got himself, Mark Manson, he got really stuck on the second part of his life where he had, tried a lot of different things, and he needed to build something meaningful that actually meant something to him deep in his soul. And he was kind of scared of that transition period because he was thinking, if I start building something, I'm not going to have the chance to travel the world and, meet new people, and I have to settle down and do all these things. And I think that's where a lot of us kind of get stuck when we do get to our, late 20s, in which, we've tried these things, and these new things that we've tried have been working for us. And then when it comes down to, starting to build something or commit to somebody who we've been dating for so long, we start to question, is this what we actually want to build? Is this what I'm passionate about? Is this what I really want to, start to build as a foundation for setting myself up going forward? And,
that makes sense.
Yeah, by the sounds of it, for both yourself working at a bank, which you didn't feel so passionate about, and for myself being in a relationship which I was kind of second guessing for such a long time, it threw us into a spot where we either were forced to make a change, or we, like you said, we crumble, and we had to actually figure out what the hell's going on with ourselves. And so, I think it takes a real lot of courage and a bit of self-respect, obviously, to be able to take that step backwards when something is not going well in our life, and ask ourselves the question, okay, maybe I did fuck up here somewhere. What do I actually need to do next to actually start progressing forward again?
I do wonder sometimes if perhaps, because we're talking about it through the male lens, right? Or male perspective. And one of the things that I think gets really tricky is until my late 20s and now early 30s, I have not had many conversations with men in a healthy way prior to that. Like, I don't think in my early 20s did I ever sit down with the boys and go, oh, yeah, like, let me talk to you about my feelings.
Yeah.
Or, let me talk to you about where I feel as though I'm coming unstuck, or, like, unfortunately, I lost my mother early in life too, and I feel as though if I had had her around to have some of these conversations, it might have been a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But it's, like, I never once considered talking to my dad about it, ever. Even to this day.
Yeah.
We do not talk about stuff.
That's crazy.
It's like, what? Yeah, so I wonder if it's easier for women to sort of figure that stuff out, or if it's just an unhealthy man thing to think that there's a difference.
Well, let me give you a bit of insight from just what I've learned as well, in that you probably realise that a lot of guys aren't very good at opening up with their feelings, right?
Heck no.
And then there's also that notion that, you shouldn't open up to girls because they're just going to dump you if you tell them or show weakness, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
that's a real thing.
I've got a theory about why this happens. And this is, I think, I promise this is relevant, and I think this explains why you would feel more comfortable going to your mother than your father for these kinds of things, for example. So, for example, if you told your feelings about what you're struggling with to the boys, for the most part, and unfortunately it's very common, they'll give you shit for it. You're like, what are you sad for, man? Just fucking, stop being a pussy and me, like, do all these things. Right?
Dude, I don't know if you've seen it, but have you seen that clip where the guys are playing Rainbow Siege 6 or whatever? And one of them's like, guys, I've been going through a really rough time. If I died, would you turn up to my funeral? And within literally the first second, my guy goes, hell no. Like, sucks that your life is shit. And then it all ends up being a funny, I guess, bit for social media by the end of it. But you sit there and the stark realization that that's how we treat each other in our most vulnerable moments. I was like, that's so real.
It's fucked up. Like, unfortunately, it's just one of those things where guys will, rather than talk about something that is a little bit difficult, they'd rather just take the piss out of it and make it into something funny. So
they don't have to acknowledge their own then.
Yeah, exactly, because the second that they start acknowledging it, they'll, something else might pop up within themselves. So, God, this is another deep dive about getting vulnerable, but we'll talk about that another time, because that's a whole deep dive itself. But I think why you're more comfortable talking to your mum or your father rather than your father is because, you talk to the guys, they're going to shit on you, so you just don't do it. So what does a guy do instead? They will go and talk to their partner, or if they don't have a partner yet, they'll start opening up to a girl that they're dating. And so what would happen? They just trauma dump everything onto this poor girl. And that
Yeah.
is where the girls go like, holy shit, that's a bit too much. Like, what the fuck? And
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with you? This is not what it looks like for everyone else, surely, because I don't hear about it.
Exactly. And so I think when a guy just goes from 0 to 100, it's like, oh my god, someone I finally feel comfortable with talking to, because a girl's not going to give him shit. They're going to obviously try to be a bit more understanding and empathetic, or, you know, if they did give him shit, a guy would, you know, get angry or something else, you know, horrible. So obviously they're going to be a lot more polite about it. But when you go 0 to 100 with someone that you just met, obviously they're going to think, oh wow, that's a bit much. Why is this guy telling me all these problems that I just met him, kind of thing? And so,
that's a good point.
Yeah, and then when a girl says, oh, you know, I just don't think that we're a good fit because, you know, you tell me all this and it made you seem like X, Y, Z. And that's when a guy
And then
goes,
you get friend-zoned.
You get friend-zoned. And then a guy goes, well, that's it, never opening up to a girl again because... right? And it just makes it worse. So...
and then you end up on 4chan.
Exactly. In the r/nice guys in Reddit or something, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so, obviously this is the problem, but what is the solution? And to me, the solution would typically be you need to have those healthy conversations with guys as a guy. And, you know, yeah, you're going to get shit for it from, you know, maybe your friends. Then you need to ask yourself, are these actually good friends? Or do you need to actually find some better friends to talk to? Because, Byron, I'll be real with you, man. If I was having a tough day or had an issue with someone or something, I would 100% feel comfortable, you know, coming to you and having a chat saying, Byron, dude, you know, I'm really not feeling so good. I'm actually feeling a bit mentally out of it. And, you know, I'd want someone to talk to. And, you know, bless you. And correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you would be someone who would be open to listening and having a chat. And
I would listen to you till the end of days, my friend. I definitely would.
You're so kind.
But do you know what the terrifying part for me listening to you say that is?
What's that?
I still have not fully developed my vulnerability metric or put any points into it because I'm still terrible. Like, and gosh, you'd get better insight by talking to Danny. I'm terrible when I'm doing badly at opening up about it to anyone, even to the point where she can't get a word out of me half the time.
Right.
And it's like, because I know the benefits, and this is why I was going to ask you, for anyone else out there that has a similar sort of mindset or feeling to me, it's not even so much that it's scary.
Yeah.
It's just like a really deeply, badly ingrained habit that is just disgustingly difficult to break. And I'm like, Jeremy, I want to be able to talk about these things. How do I go about, because yes, you're right. That the idea of being rejected by your friends and being called a pussy and stuff is kind of sucky. But at the same time, I'm strong enough within myself that if you did that to me, I'd be like, oh, he's not someone I want to hang around with. So off he goes. But how do I A, work out the strength to be able to approach my friends if I don't really know that they're open to it? And then B, how do I internally go, okay, it's not weak. It's not that Jeremy's going to judge me or do anything and there's no consequence that's going to be detrimental to my life. How do I get comfortable with being able to open up to you?
That's a very good question. Again, this is just from my own personal experiences that I've personally done myself, and it's also what I've coached with the clients that I've got in my social skills coaching who, again, they will find it very hard to open up. I think most people, as overall, just to start, is they find it difficult to open up, typically because they've had a bad reaction in the past. You know, maybe they have had a bunch of friends just shit on them before. Maybe they have opened up to a girl before and they said, well, you're not manly enough, blah, 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 blah. And so that's going to make them want to turtle up and shut down, which is understandable. So let's do this in two ways. There's going to be one, how do you know it's the right person to speak to? And phase two, how do I actually emotionally and physically prepare to open up to somebody, right? So first part is, how do you know it's the right person to speak to? So obviously when we just met, I had no idea if you would be that kind of person. Right? And so it gives me no benefit to be able to go from 0 to 100 and tell you my life story and tell you my problems and tell what I'm struggling with, right? So the best thing to do is, number one, say it's a complete stranger, or maybe it is with let's say a complete stranger, just to start with, and then we'll go on to friends. Because a stranger becomes a friend, right? If you get along. So you go to a stranger, you talk to them, you get a vibe. wow, this person's actually kind of fun to chat to. Wow, there's a natural conversation between us. Wow, this person is quite fun and witty and doesn't seem to be the kind of person who puts other people down or makes someone else the butt of a joke. They seem happy and comfortable within themselves. And we'll naturally be drawn to those kinds of people as human beings. But
100%.
Those kinds of people, typically, if there's good social chemistry, keyword here is chemistry, is that there's a natural banter, there's natural vibe between you. They're typically the people that you make friends with growing up as a kid or, even into your adult life. They're people that you can just easily talk to, right? So when you kind of establish, hey, this person's kind of okay to hang out with, let's catch up more. We should hang out sometime. We'll go through a friendship tier list at some stage, Byron. Have I told you that one already? I have.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I hope I'm in tier 4.
Oh, at this point you are. Don't you worry. We'll go through this. I promise this will make sense later. So when you, I think, have met someone, and let's say you classify them as a friend now, right? How do you open up to them? Do you go 0 to 100 now that we're friends? Again, you don't. You go 0 to 10, maybe, right? Maybe you open up about something small, like, growing up, I had a bit of a rocky relationship with my dad. Well, growing up, my mum died a little bit early, which kind of sucked. And you can kind of test the waters with something like that, very simply.
Yeah, get a reaction.
Get a reaction.
You
See how they react.
Pretty quick.
If someone's like, oh, so your dad left, and does that mean why you suck at cricket? Man up, dude, just get better. Obviously, that sucks. Not a great reaction. Probably not going to open up to this guy more. But if they said, like, oh, yeah, dude, just, this
doesn't mean they're a bad person, by the way, right?
Yeah, doesn't mean they're a bad person.
It just means they're not really eligible for deep and meaningful conversation beyond fun times.
And a good indication, if you don't want to open up about your past, you want to go 0 to 5, make it even smaller. You can talk about relationships. Maybe you can talk about, I've kind of got an interest, or I've got a crush on this girl here. What kind of suggestions would you have? Right?
Uru, tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more. And if they say something very constructive, like, oh, dude, tell me a bit more about this girl. What do you like about her? Where'd you meet? What kind of things are you into? Great, that's actual progressive discussion. But if they're like, oh, dude, just, ask her out. Just, like, if she doesn't like you, then fuck it, on to the next one.
Shoot your shot, bro.
Yeah, if it's not something which helps you, then, again, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. They're just not the kind of person to open up to about something deeper. So, yeah. If they're great, it goes 0 to 10. The next discussion you have out with them goes 0 to 20, 0 to 30, or 10 to 20, 10 to 30. Open up bit by bit about something a little bit more meaningful to you. Maybe it's about your dreams, your hopes for the future. Maybe it's about, your dream life, what it looks like. And typically, a good friend won't shoot you down. A good friend will be supportive. They'll want to know more. They'll want to encourage you. Right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And so typically that's how you go, from bit by bit by bit by bit. Eventually, when you go from 90 to 100, those really deep things, you would have not just been taking a roll of the dice, with this conversation. It doesn't come out of nowhere.
It's not all or nothing at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So you've kind of sussed them out. You've kind of know that, hey, I can trust this person. I've trusted them with small things. I've trusted them with medium things. And you know what? I dare say I could probably feel comfortable trusting them with the big thing. So that is kind of how to approach someone in an external sense, how to approach them physically about it. How do you open up about that emotionally? It's in the very same way. Again, you're not doing it roll of the dice, Hail Mary, I hope they're accepting of me, taking a gamble, all or nothing. Because, again, you're going to do it bit by bit. But
it's basically like dating a person.
Like dating a person, absolutely. Are you going to go straight to 5-course meal, fancy hotel, suit and tie, $300 bottle service kind of thing, first date?
Well, I did.
Oh, well, how'd that go?
It went pretty well.
Oh, wow, well, don't talk to me for dating advice. That's what Byron's here for. But in the same way, you might say, well, cool, like that makes sense, but like I still don't feel comfortable doing it because I've been shot down before. Fuck it, not doing it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what you do have to realize is, you've been hurt before. Yeah, this girl who shot me down told me I was too sensitive, whatever it was. You have to realize that not everybody is going to give you that same reaction. Mm-hmm. And at this end of the day, not everybody is going to be, not eligible like these other people. And, you might have been shot down 3, 4, 5 times in a row. It does not mean the 6th time is going to be just as bad. So, yeah.
You know what? Thinking about what you're saying then, I really do hope maybe at some point we can have an impact on the wider male community as a whole. Imagine if more blokes heard stuff like this.
Yeah.
And were able to test the 5% and then be willing to receive the 5%.
Absolutely.
And then eventually over time, we all just level up to the point where more guys can talk to, or I shouldn't say guys, like it is 2025. More male-orientated, masculine
more people. Just more people in general, right?
Oh, is that how I do it? Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm pretty...
people.
Anybody out there who's listening that perhaps doesn't, haven't liked what I've said in terms of terms, I'm sorry. I do not, genuinely do not mean
He's
to
doing
offend,
his best.
I am trying. But it would be good. It would be nice to see all of us be able to increase our ability to not only talk, but also to listen.
No, absolutely. It's in the same way. If you want to be someone who feels comfortable opening up to somebody going from 0 to 10, you yourself also should put yourself in a position where if someone, decides to take that chance and talk to you about a 0 to 10, conflict in their life, try to be that person who is opening to listening, opening to not just giving advice straight away, open to not just dismissing them, or you're saying, dude, would you come to my funeral if I died tomorrow? Rather than being like, oh no, fuck no, dude, ha ha ha. Being like, dude, of course I would. I would be the one at the forefront, cry my eyes out. Shedding tears.
Damn right. Yeah.
And I think the change that I want to see in humanity more than anything else is rather than have this defensive barrier up saying it's cool to not care, it's cool to be aloof, it's cool to not care so much and you rather put your friend down. I would rather the cool thing to do be overexpressive, love too much, be over the top with how much that you express that you love someone or that you care for someone. Because if you heard it saying dude, if I died tomorrow, would you come to my funeral? Dude, I would be the first one there in a suit and tie, fucking cry my eyes out with the biggest bunch of flowers. I love you so much. I hope you don't fucking die. But yeah, I would 100% be the first person, carrying that casket and, wishing that you were still there. And how much does that sound like you actually care for your friend? More than, no, fuck dude, I hope you die tomorrow. That's so bad.
Yeah. God. You're making me really reevaluate some things here, Jeremy. Jeez.
Dude, this podcast, it's all about having these discussions and people listening in, not just for other people, but it's for us as well. Because, dude, I think just being around you as well, and I'll mean this in the greatest compliment that I can imagine, in that I really don't have too many guys in my life that I've got as friends who I can comfortably say, yeah, I would feel comfortable talking to this person about, a 10 out of 10 conflict thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Because, again, as much as it takes for me, I'm very open with, when I meet people. You know what I'm like. I meet someone for the first time, swinging my dick around, so that if you can see it. And, just being me and laying it all on the table. And if you like it, awesome. If you don't like it, awesome. It just means when we don't get along. And I try to make myself vulnerable and open to having these kinds of discussions with people if they're willing to. But if people aren't willing to, I completely understand why as well. So,
Jeremy, I'm going to go out on a limb here
and say,
I think that you are an extremely masculine man, and perhaps I have a thing or two to learn from you, my good friend.
Coming from you, my friend, I feel like I've got a lot to learn as well with the way that you carry yourself, the way that you think, the way that you treat other people. It's all something that I look up to as well. So, the feeling's mutual.
This is healthy masculinity right here, ladies and gentlemen.
This is what healthy masculinity looks like. All right. But yeah, oh my god, we've done more than an hour already. How does that feel? Do you feel?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I could probably go for about 6 hours on this stuff. But
we'll chop it up into bits just to make it like an episodal thing.
It'll be called Episode 2.
Oh wow, that's a good thing. But yeah, just to kind of sum up everything, Byron, to you, what do you think if someone was wanting to become just generally a better person, or want to practice healthy masculinity? What are some things that what are some habits that you think you would suggest to somebody like that?
Well, I think the first habit that I would encourage people to adopt is to listen to this podcast on the regular.
Yep,
because
absolutely.
I think definitely, that's a small little plug for us. But honestly, I think the things that I have learned the most are right. It's easy to say, I guess, but being vulnerable and realizing that you can actually feel things. Practicing that mindfulness around your emotions and how you feel. It doesn't mean you have to react.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you have to display them if that's not where you're starting, but actually acknowledging that something is real to you. And for instance, if I wake up in the morning and I feel completely lost and dejected about the day, instead of pushing it down, just being like, I've got to soldier on, man up, go do my job.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I actually do feel this way. I don't feel so hot within myself, and that may impact the way that I carry myself or the things that I achieve today, but that doesn't make me any less of a man. Right?
Absolutely.
So it is purely mindfulness around that. And then the second one is, I think it's about a little bit of doing exactly what you just talked about, is starting dialogues.
Yeah.
Right? If starting a conversation, even if it's just a 1% conversation about yourself and what you're thinking, feeling, doing, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then being prepared to listen, right? Actively listen on the other end of it, because there's nothing worse than when you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and they're a brick wall. So don't be a brick wall.
Yeah.
They would be the things that I would suggest.
No, that's really good. I agree with both of those things. I think they're both things that are very actionable and things that you can really think about on a day-to-day basis. I think the only thing I'd want to add on to that is literally healthy to me, and not just being masculine, but just being a person in general, is being positive and being supportive and kind.
I need to work on that one so badly.
Look, I think you'll find it. Like you're every time we get to talk, I look forward to it. I know it's going to be a fun discussion. I know it's not going to be something which I dread. You're easy to talk to and very open, so I look forward to it. And I think,
shucks.
And look, that's just being, you're a supportive person. And, being positive and kind to anybody around you on a daily basis. It costs you nothing. It doesn't take any
100%.
effort. I mean, the only effort it might be is tell the person wearing a nice hat, hey, dude, you've got a cool hat. I really like that. Anyway,
I like that one. That's good.
And look, that's all social skill stuff that I coach, and that's for another thing altogether. But other than that, look, before we kind of wrap up, let's just plug a little bit about if you like what we do, where you can find us, and what else we can do. Byron,
Yes.
what are your socials? If we want to look at your sexy abs a bit more and look at your dress sense, where do we find you?
Mostly you can find me on Instagram, so I would start there at Byron Rose Kelly is my Instagram handle, and then, I mean, really you can find anything on there, my email address and stuff if you want to talk to me directly, and then over at our Patreon, specifically for this podcast, I guess
You can tell us about it,
Jeremy.
You can,
No, go for it.
We put it together. Okay, so it's if you enjoyed this episode and you kind of want to listen to us more, please click us to on YouTube, like and subscribe. But if anything, if you're listening to this through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a rating. That really helps push us up the algorithm.
Yes, please.
And it really helps us out there. So push us up.
I'm not going to twist your arm, but 5 stars would be fantastic.
Right. And if you want to support us even further, like Byron mentioned, we do have a Patreon. You can find it in the Just Men podcast on Patreon, where it's just, I don't think we've got anything really big set up just yet. It's just a small...
No.
Each episode that comes out is just going to be a little $2 or something.
But like all men, we're growers.
We're growers. We like to think that we're bigger on the inside of something. I don't know. I don't know what to talk about. But yeah, that's our podcast, Just Men podcast on Patreon. And very soon, we'll probably, by the time this episode airs, we'll have our Instagram set up, which will be the Just Men podcast Instagram, so you can get any updates of what we're doing. And you'll probably find my personal Instagram. If you're interested in what I do, which is social skills coaching for introverts, you'll find that at very.jeremy. Isn't that fun? I made that up myself. Very Jeremy.
When I saw you create that, I was like, damn, that was smart.
Well, you don't see a lot of people, they do things like, it's the real Jeremy, or it's like, what else is it? Jeremy Official or something. I'm like,
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. So I think Jeremy Official and It's Jeremy was already taken, so very Jeremy it is.
I see.
Yeah, it was more of the ones taken. Anyway, thank you very much if you've tuned in this far into the podcast. We're pretty pumped to get this ball rolling and get on the road. We've got so many great topics to talk about and to cover, and myths we'd like to dispel, and advice that we'd like to just give out based on our own experiences, and more manly things to come. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Tough manly stuff.
Manly
thanks
stuff.
for being here.
And we'll catch you in the next episode. So thanks very much.
Much love. Peace.
Bye.